Welcome to Championship Drive. Who's in?
Thanks for the geography lesson there, Coach. Top 4 performances from yesterday. Michigan State, Vilma got the big upset over Penn State. Suddenly the Spartans are back in it.
Yeah, put themselves right back in the Big Ten hunt. They could easily win out. Now the schedule is hard for them, and it's going to be a tall task. But if they do win out and win the Big Ten, they have every opportunity to be in the playoffs.
Michigan comes to town next week. Oregon coach defeated Washington. I know you love the game-winning play in overtime.
Yeah, I did. Mario Cristobal, ex-offensive line coach, saying, hey, I've got a great quarterback, but I'm going to give it to a little running back right up the middle. Touchdown and a win.
Burdell with the game winner. Michigan defeated Wisconsin. Heather, they looked really impressive in doing so.
They did. They should be a top 6 team, in my opinion, right now. This is exactly what Coach Jim Harbaugh needed, a statement win. Their only loss right now is to Notre Dame, which is looking pretty good.
Yeah, it makes the whole Big Ten look interesting as well. And speaking of interesting, the SEC got a lot more interesting yesterday. Georgia goes on the road to LSU, and they got thumped by the Tigers. So now while Georgia takes a step back, several other teams in the conference with impressive wins like LSU make the move higher in terms of the committee's eyes. Hi, everybody. Chris Cotter, Heather Dinich, along with Jim Mora, and my guy over here, Jonathan Vilma. Sorry, Vilma.
You know me.
I know.
Don't act like you don't know me, CC.
The SEC. Let's talk about them first, because while Georgia takes a step back, you have some other teams that take a step forward, too. To your point, too, off the top, Coach, Alabama just seems to be
the divide between Alabama and everybody else is it's incredible. I haven't seen anything like it. Maybe I'm over the top, but I don't think so. I think they're just so talented, so well coached, so dominant. I mean, really, since probably the '81 Miami Hurricanes, I haven't seen a team.
81, not 2000?
Whatever year you.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Jim Kelly, 81 Miami Hurricanes, probably where it is.
I thought, I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? They do look good. But they also have played the weakest schedule in the SEC. And we were singing this same tune last year, if we all remember how good they were, up until they ran up against Auburn. And Auburn showed everyone who Alabama really was. And they regrouped and they won the national title. But, yes, they are good, but let's hold on a second until they play some real teams.
Heather, here's my question for Alabama. I think what separates them this year from all these other great Alabama teams is Tua Tagovailoa. They have a different dimension on offense. He goes down with the knee injury again in the second half. Coach Saban, it's not very serious, but now this is the Arkansas game and this game yesterday that he's having a little bit of problem with that knee. Is that a concern? Does that change your opinion of Alabama a little bit?
No, it doesn't, because they've done it with Tua and they've done it without Tua. And I think Jalen Hurts has proven he's perfectly capable of leading that team and that offense. But at the end of the day, they have not been tested, just like Jonathan said. And when you look at what happened to Georgia, they weren't tested either. And then they ran into LSU. So I do think that there are still some questions. But I also think that Nick Saban will do what's best for Tua, for his quarterback, and for his offense, and wouldn't risk putting him at further injury.
So let's talk about the rest of the conference now, because, Heather, to your point at the top of the show, the conference takes a hit. With Georgia losing, now all of a sudden you can't look at 2 unbeaten teams playing in the SEC championship game as maybe getting 2 in. Now you have to start looking at the list of one-loss teams, and there are many of them out there.
There are. And if we go big picture, we know that a one-loss SEC champ is going to make the playoffs. That's a fact, whether it's Alabama, Georgia, whoever it is. So if I'm Kirby Smart right now, I'm going back to the team and saying, look, guys, we still can control our own destiny. We run the table. We play Alabama or whoever it is from the West, and we win. We're in the playoffs. It's just so, to your point, Heather, that it has now changed the fact that we were talking about 2 teams for the longest, and I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
No, but the team that I think's got all the momentum is LSU.
Oh, yeah.
I've been so impressed. Week after week after week, you just see continued improvement, and especially out of the quarterback, Burrow. And what he did yesterday with his legs, to me, was so impressive. But it's the physicality that they're playing with, both offensively and defensively, the confidence, you can tell that they bought into Coach O and his culture. They love playing for him, and they have a real firm belief in who they are. And
But
after
Jim,
yesterday,
do they have a chance against Alabama? They play
no,
Alabama.
I already said nobody has a chance.
They have no chance. And you know that game is in LSU, Baton Rouge.
I don't, it doesn't matter. To Heather's point, it doesn't matter if it's Tua or it's Jalen, Alabama has so much talent. I mean,
They do.
They don't take a
Guys-
step back, or at least a notable step back if they change quarterback.
What impressed me so much about LSU was defensively, because after they struggled so much against the run against Florida, I thought, now this is going to be a pretty big challenge going against those Georgia running backs. But they were so physical, and the way that they forced Fromm into some mistakes and his completion percentage dropped like that, I just thought that was really impressive. And yes, we should be taking them seriously, but I don't think they
I think LSU, you got Florida with one loss. They keep getting better. They probably have a little bit of a longer way to go than LSU before they're real competitors as far as for winning a championship in the SEC. But they're there, and they got that game against Georgia coming up in Jacksonville. The other really impressive win, I mean, LSU's was huge yesterday. So was Michigan. You know, Michigan had that loss to Notre Dame to start the year. Everyone kind of thought, I don't know how good this Michigan team, even with Shea Patterson, is going to be. Well, I think yesterday, Coach, for the first time, really since the beginning of the year, we saw them against a really good opponent, and they came to play and played 60 minutes.
They absolutely dominated Wisconsin. And I think the key here has been the play of Shea Patterson. I think he's made a huge difference for Michigan. Jim Harbaugh finally has a quarterback that is multidimensional, a guy that can run, that makes good decisions, that's accurate through the air. And we know that they are a nasty defense. I mean, they stopped the run yesterday. Wisconsin tries to throw against the number 4 pass defense in the country, and you're not going to have any success. They come at you in waves. They're a really, really good. I woke up this morning.
But
ready to put them in my top 4. I'm going to tell you, I know that sounds crazy, but I woke up feeling that way.
I understand what you're saying, but we cannot forget Michigan State. No, they are not getting into the playoff, but they are right in the middle of that Big Ten East race, and Michigan has to go to East Lansing. Michigan State could play the role of spoiler, not just for one of those contenders in the Big Ten, but for the entire conference.
That's kind of their MO, isn't it? You know, they just kind of lay in the weeds. They play great defense, and then they come up and they ruin somebody's season. And, you know,
I don't think they're ruining Michigan's season, though. I know it's a tough test, but they both know, Michigan and Michigan State know what they're going up against. They play each other every year. So Michigan looks like a team that has completely transformed themselves, but really in the run game. I'm looking at them in the running game. As soon as they lost to Maryland, to Notre Dame, they said, we're not having this anymore. We're going to run the ball, get back to playing good defense, and have our identity, and that's what they've done. And that's gotten better and better. Their execution has gotten better and better. And frankly, their real threat is Ohio State. I don't think Michigan State's even a threat.
Michigan, Ohio State is what it's all boiling down to. And right now, ESPN's FPI says that game against Ohio State is the only one Michigan is not favored to win.
And that game is going to be in Columbus at the end of the year. It's going to be a titanic battle, as it always is. All right, the theme of the show, as it is every week, is about fours. How about the top 4 catches of the day yesterday? We go to Cornell and Colgate. Yes, Owen Peters. Wow. With a tough one-handed catch going out of bounds. Take a look.
Great.
I love that. He had to contort his body,
Yes,
doing
he did.
180, and still did the one-handed catch. I mean,
The big red.
that looks good.
KJ Hill, he's got stickum on his hands.
Oh, this is Fred Biletnikoff all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, now watch his end zone celebration. They got to show it was a pass. Yeah, I loved it. Like Spider-Man, I loved it. I loved it. It was great.
Tough year so far for Louisville, but they do, like, Louisville has, look at that, can't get it off. It stuck to my hand.
Oh, I love it.
That's a great line. Louisville's got great receivers. There's no question about it. You just got to get the ball into their hands. Look at Des Fitzpatrick.
This is
all the way back, and then brings
look
it
at
in.
that. Oh, wow.
That's
On
a
his
great
head.
Hit, keeps it. Oh,
Holding
my
it,
God.
And then the strength to keep it still so it doesn't move when he hits the ground. Finally, Jabari Allen from Towson. Look at that in the corner.
I got to see that again.
Was he inbounds?
I have to see that again.
He actually, he doesn't even know. He's like, it was a touchdown, right?
Oh, no, that's spatial awareness.
Whoa.
Oh, he got
That
it.
was awesome, man. That
The
was
folks
awesome.
picnicking back there in the background, loving it. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about some other big upsets yesterday. Iowa State handed West Virginia their first loss. Now, Campbell and company playing some pretty good football right now. And the Pac-12 with Oregon's big win against Washington. How does this set up as far as a potential team to be able to make the playoff down the road? And we're going to stick some forks into some teams.
Get out, baby. Bring it out.
We come back. Vilma's got us. Inich is ready to stick a fork in some teams. We're going to do some barbecuing next on Who's in Championship Drive.
Kings Mayhem is brought to you by Allstate, reminding you that football season is mayhem.
Let's take a look at this week's rankings mayhem brought to you by Allstate. The Big 12 took a shot to the solar plexus, in keeping with the wrestling theme, as Iowa State steamrolled West Virginia 30-14, putting the conference's playoff hopes in dire jeopardy. Brock Purdy looked good. Looks like Matt Campbell's got himself another quarterback there at Ames. The folks storm the field at Jack Trice. Oh, what do we have here? The forks, and we got the brass accoutrements, too. High class here on Who's In. Time to play Stick a Fork In. We got big forks. We got little forks. Vilma, I'm going to start with you since at the top of the show you said the Big 12 was in trouble. You're going to stick a fork in them?
Yeah, and I'm taking a big fork in the Big 12. Wow. They are out. They're out.
Just like that?
Just like that. You have West Virginia, you have Oklahoma, and you have Texas. Those are their only opportunities, right? Okay. Well, Oklahoma is going to beat Texas if they make it into the Big 12 title game, so they're out. You have West Virginia, who you said last week is not good enough, so they're out. And then you have Texas, who can't keep up with the Big Four. I already anointed Notre Dame, right? So now we're talking about the other big conferences. Texas cannot keep up. No, they can't.
What about Oklahoma? How are you going to just take Kyler Murray? And
so
what he's done.
I love Kyler Murray. I love Kyler Murray, and I love Oklahoma's offense. They have a playoff caliber offense. Their defense stinks. Stinks. Thank you.
Mr. Defense.
And we all know it's the truth. And they have, if they were to make the playoffs, they would have the worst defense in the playoffs, just like they had the worst defense in the playoffs last year.
But
and they lost.
Hold on a minute.
Oh, I'm spitting
facts. Because if there's chaos in the ACC, Clemson stumbles. If Notre Dame stumbles, I'm telling you right now that nobody from the Pac-12 is going to get in. Guess what? It
Oregon
opens
has
the door.
no chance to get in.
It
they're done.
opens the door, albeit a crack, for a one-loss Big 12 champ. I would put them in ahead of the
Okay,
Pac-12.
so you're giving them a little fork.
I'll give it a little fork.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You're giving them a little fork.
A fork.
Well, are you putting a little fork or a big fork in the Pac-12?
A big, Pac-12?
Double fork? I'm going to go 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Heather's going
That's
You know what?
That's
Heather, I hate to say that because you know what? My background's in the Pac-12. But Washington State's going to beat Oregon this week, all right?
Really?
And then Stanford's going to beat Washington State next week.
Wow.
Okay? But here's why I'm putting a fork in, and it's a little fork. I'm going to take a little dainty fork. I'm going to put it in all the 2-loss teams, okay? Because I don't think a 2-loss team deserves to be in the playoff. All right, but I'm only going to put a little fork in there because I want to reserve the right to change my mind.
Well, can we just go back to the Pac-12 for 1 second?
Yes.
Even if Oregon does run the table and win this thing as a one-loss conference champ, let me remind you guys that Oregon's non-conference schedule is Bowling Green, Portland State, San Jose State.
Remember,
so they're not getting in.
wait a minute. Remember who had a very soft cupcake schedule from the Pac-12 just a couple years ago?
Washington.
And made the playoffs.
But
Oregon, 1 loss, wins the Pac-12. They can make the playoffs.
Going to lose.
During that year that Washington made it, the Big 12 and the Big 10 both had 2-loss conference champions.
That's fine. Notre Dame is the one disrupting all of this. I already locked them. They're in. They're in.
I agree with you.
Alabama's in. One way or another, they're in. Then you have either the Big 10 champ, ACC champ, which both could possibly be in. And then if one of them is not in, the Pac-12 will have precedence over the Big 12.
He's like he was yesterday with the whole Notre Dame Pitt game. Like every week you're going to be sweating out Notre Dame.
It's okay. I locked them.
They can't have one loss. So
I have conviction in that one. It's a lot.
What about the 2-loss teams then? Because really the top one I think after yesterday is Penn State.
They're done.
Penn State's done.
I'm going to take a big
fork.
Big fork.
And big fork on Penn State across the board. Well, now we're kind of seeing some of that chaos in the Big Ten because you got Michigan and Michigan State this week. That could add that's going to add a second loss to those two teams. Well, one of those two teams was going to knock them out.
Which is fine. Michigan, I have Michigan running the table up until Ohio State.
Michigan, there's something now.
Wisconsin, 2-loss Big Ten champ.
Out.
Out.
They were
BYU.
Big fork. Out.
After yesterday,
Big fork. Out. They lost to BYU. No, they're out.
So there isn't a single 2-loss team right now that can get in your mind, even down the road. Not a.
There is a lot that has to happen for a 2-loss team right now to get in.
Well, yeah, and look at how difficult it was for Auburn last year. They were in the conversation. The only reason they were in the conversation, they knocked off the committee's #1 team twice, Alabama and Georgia.
That's right, and still didn't get in when all was said and done. Hey, you can join the conversation. Go to twitter.com/SportsCenter on Monday to vote for this week's Capital One fan vote. Looking at our top 4s of the day, how about top 4 play extensions from Saturday? Nate Stanley, coach, had a huge game, but he is massively big dude. Look at him get away from the rush.
Initially, I thought he looked like Ben Roethlisberger.
Same uniform.
Then he gave me a little Russell Wilson.
Not so quick, though. But definitely Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know about the Russell Wilson.
It's Nick Easley there for the touchdown. Same game, Heather. Check out Amir Smith-Marset on the punt return. Kick return, rather. Now watch this. Oh!
That's awesome. I love that.
Form?
Now, if he'd have stayed up and taken it the distance,
Oh, man.
I'd have given him
Jim,
serious-
it's so hard to please
I
you,
know.
man.
I know.
Total
Yeah,
defender stayed in bounds.
Negative.
Think about the coach in film room with that one. Miles Sanders, this is a great run.
Great run, but can I just talk about the awful tackle?
Okay, but look at that move right
Can I
there.
get
Yes.
Mr. Negative again?
Yes, you are being Mr.
Well,
Negative.
can somebody please use their arms for
If
the
his
tackle?
last
There's
name
like
was Barkley
7
from
tackles.
last year, this would be Sports Center
That's a
top
great run.
plays, number
It is.
one.
Great
Everybody be
move.
talking about how he's such a high recruit.
No, he is. Collision, balance, acceleration.
That was awesome.
And
let's
then this
get
one
back
here,
to that.
Oregon and Washington, Justin Herbert. Look at him sprinting out in the shadows. Perfect pass.
That's-
Jalen
all right,
Red.
How
Come
about
on.
he squares his shoulders up,
Thank
gets
you.
his body pointed downfield, then Jalen Red with an amazing...
We finally pleased Jim. I
Yeah.
love it. Finally. It took
Well, I'm
Justin
so-
Herbert
I'm so happy
and
for
Jalen
Jalen
Red
Red.
to please him.
Still to come here on Who's In, the bottom four. You're not going to want to miss this one. Fumbling, bumbling, stumbling in Nashville. As promised, the always popular bottom four plays. Ole Miss at Arkansas. Keep an eye on the top of the screen. Oh, by the way, a violent push.
He should be fined for that. Look at this
looks
flop.
Ole Miss defensive
Yes,
end, Kadir
man.
Shepard.
That's the old LeBron flop right there.
Look at that, the double flop.
The second one. I like the second one, the rebound.
WF.
Oh,
The
my
officials
goodness.
discuss it. Yeah, it worked. They got assessed an unsportsmanlike penalty. Ohio State band, they're awesome at this. They're
This
trying
needs to be
floss.
top four. This can't be bottom four. This is awesome.
They're trying to
incredible.
floss, but look, it breaks apart. It
No, this is
sort of,
terrific.
yeah.
Well, you
it's-
know what? It's a good
Hard. You know how hard it is to get
college
like
try.
200
I
band
agree with
members
you,
to do
Philma. I
that?
agree with you. That should be more towards the top. This is clearly at the bottom. Look at this.
Ooh,
Vandy
they
didn't
did not
score.
practice turnovers.
It stays in bounds.
Scoop and score.
Oh, God.
Watch
Look
that
at
come over at the end.
Hot potato, hot
Right
potato,
here,
hot
right here.
potato.
All
I don't want it. I don't want it.
Take
That's why they're on the
Take it.
defensive
Right
side
there.
of the ball, Philma. Vandy did recover, though. And then finally, Washington and Oregon. Look at Cristobal. Not once. Icing the kicker, who, by the way, is Peyton Henry. Another one. Henry makes the practice kick, and on the third try, see, this is a practice kick right here, the second try. Cristobal already called timeout.
Don't trade the practice kick.
Here's the real thing.
Oh.
And there was you see the
A
flop.
miraculous gust of wind there at Autzen Stadium came in and really pushed that one over there around the edge. But there was more to that, because in that last drive, before we even got to that timeout sequence, Coach, Washington had a chance to maybe move the ball closer, maybe to do a few other things offensively, and they opted not to do so.
Yeah, I'm perplexed by that. It surprises me that Chris Peterson made this decision. The only thing that I can figure is that he had two of his top running backs out, and he didn't want to put the ball in his quarterback's hand to try to sneak it. He certainly didn't want to throw it where something bad can happen. I'm sticking up for him here while
know,
also
Jim,
being
you are
critical.
sugarcoating
I'm
it, man.
I don't understand it. I'd like to understand his reasoning for it, but it was not a good decision.
Jim,
obviously.
you and I both know there is nothing to understand. You have
I
two
know, two timeouts.
timeouts.
I got it.
You had 35 seconds. It's 3rd and 1.
Yep.
You have every opportunity to either try to get a first down or go for the end zone. Man,
No,
there
you're
was
right.
nothing to sugarcoat.
It's
That
not
was
very-
You're
but
right.
it's a very
I'm
negative-
glad you said it, not me.
That's
I'm
fine.
a Husky, dang it.
Okay, that's fine. But
Okay.
he messed
You're
up
right.
on
It's
that.
not like
Right.
you're trying to get it from a 50-yard kick
No,
to a
you're right.
35-yard kick. That's a
That's
very
right.
makeable kick, though.
But I will say this: you had two. I had other issues. Okay,
I know
here
you
was
had
my
issues with this
issue.
Memphis game.
How do you get 2 plays off in the final 46 seconds of a game? Okay, right here. Get up and clock it. Okay, or don't motion.
I
Okay,
agree.
because now all of a sudden your right tackle has to sit in there forever.
But we
now
need
you
you to
got
stay
a
in your chair, though.
You got it. I can't, because now you got a 10-second runoff, and then now your quarterback with 12 seconds, you get one play, he throws it inside,
And then that's
it's
the throw.
tackled. And I think Mike Norvell's awesome, okay?
Yeah.
But I also think if you're a head coach and a play caller at the same time, these things can happen right here. And then,
All right, I
It's
hear
gonna
you.
come
But
down to
stay
that
in there,
anyway. Memphis
'cause
could've won that game by
IMX ticked
2
off this
touchdowns.
Jim. It was
you know
bad.
what?
And
When you
Colorado,
coach in the
USC.
NFL, I will tell you this: clock management is
It's
at
key.
a premium.
Yes.
You can't win unless you can manage a clock.
What happened here at
and
the
in college,
Coliseum?
you see poor clock management too often. Colorado has to make a decision. Are we going to try to move the ball down the field and score, or are we going to run out the clock? And they really did neither. Okay?
I can tell you what, they've never practiced this. That's why. That's why they had all 3 timeouts. They never practiced it because as a coach, you say, all right, on the first play, I either get 2 yards and I'm just going to let the clock run, or I'm going to get more than 2 yards. I'm calling timeouts so that I can get down the field. And he got the in-between. It was like 8 or 9 yards, completely botched that.
And I was far from perfect in the NFL at doing that, but it's something that I took pride in, and I studied it. I mean, I studied it, and we worked at it. But I'll go back to this. When you're the offensive play caller, and you're also the head coach, and you have to make those split-second decisions, you get in conflict because you're trying to come up with a play. All right, but so then you lose track of the clock, and so I think there has to be a division somewhere if you want to be successful all the time in those situations.
Get back coach and a clock coach. You need to have a separate clock coach.
So that I'm glad you mentioned it. That's what Herm had. Oh my goodness, my rookie year, horrible clock management. We ended up losing the game. It's the truth. And the next year, what we did was we hired a game clock management coach.
Yeah.
And all he did was walk by Herm, and when we're in certain game situations, he would let him know, hey, this is what's going on, and you make a call.
Well, you're talking about 3 really good coaches there. Yeah. Peterson, Norvell, Coach Mack.
Yeah.
These are good. These are
and Coach
good.
Mora.
I think,
And Mora.
We obviously have to do that segment every week.
Chair,
What keeps Coach Mora awake at night? That was outstanding. We'll see you all next week. Got a bunch of big games on Saturday as well. It's going to be fun.